let me go back to the one of the most fundamental things that you need to understand about networking is the positions of the binary numbers. So that if you have binary numbers, if I have a byte here, a byte is composed of 8 bits, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, regardless of what the bits are. So that if I have 8 positions here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you have to know what the values of each position is. And the value of this position here is 1, and the value of this one here is 2, the value of this one is 4, the value of this one is 8, the value of this one is 16, the value of this one is 32, the value of this one is 64, and the value of this one is 128. So that if I have a binary number 1 here, and all of these ones are zeros, my value, total value of this binary byte is 128. Because we only add the values that have a binary number 1 and not the values that have a binary number 0. And having said that, then if I have a binary value number 1 here within this byte, then my total value of this byte would be 128 plus 2 equals 130, because only this one and that one have a binary value of 1. And subsequently, if we change this binary value here to 1, well, now obviously our total here is going to change, right? We're going to have 128 plus 32, and you can add this in this case, in this sense, so that it's much easier. 128 plus 32 equals that's 10. Take 1, 5, 6. That's 160 plus 2 is 162. Right? So that my binary value here, if I have 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, is 128 plus 32 plus 2. 128 plus 32 is 160, and then plus the 2 here is 162. That is my total value there. All right.
Ready?
So that if you change the value of that byte is going to change. We're still on?
Mm-hmm.
If I put a 1 over here, then we have 128 plus 64 plus 8. That's 168 plus 2, because that's the one that has a 1 there. That's 170. Hopefully you can get good enough with this so that you can just write numbers on here, such as, and these are some of the ones that are easy. This one equals 240. 128 plus 64 plus 32 plus 16 equals 240. We don't count those because those are zeros. The binary value of those are zeros. Then my value here will be what? 8 plus 4 plus 2 plus 1 equals 15. Right? That's how you do binary numbers. That's how you read the values, right? You read the values. So that if I didn't, you need to learn the value, the positions of the values, so that you can figure out the total value without actually having the values of each position written down. So that if you get a number like this one, for example, you should be able to figure out that 32 plus 16 plus 4 and plus 1 equals 85. Just like that. Takes a little practice. All right, another thing you need to understand is classes, IP classes. Class A is 0 to 120, 0 to 127. Class B equals 128 to 191. Class C is 192 to 223. These are the only ones you need to know for now. That means that if I see an IP address like this, 192.168.1.1, the first thing that I'm going to look at to try to figure out what type of class it is the first octet, or the first number here. It's a 192, so that falls within this category here. This is a Class C IP address. Class C IP address. If you see an IP address like this, 86.7.7.1, it doesn't matter what numbers you have here. What I'm looking at is these numbers here. And this number here falls within this range. This range is a Class A. If you see something like 129.7.8.3, again, it doesn't matter what value you have here. It doesn't matter what value you have here either. I look at this value here and say that falls within this category here, that is a Class B IP address. You need to be able to do that without thinking about it before you start even getting into subnetting. Now, another thing you need to understand is the subnet mask, or you need to know the subnet mask. The default subnet mask for each class. So that for Class A, my default subnet mask is 255.0.0.0. For Class B, my default subnet mask is 255.255.0.0. And from Class C, my default subnet mask is 255.255.255.0. All right. You need to know this. You need to know that this is a Class A subnet mask. This is a Class B subnet mask. This is a Class C subnet mask. This is the default subnet mask to each IP address. So that if I have, for example, 192.168.7.1 with a default subnet mask, and by the way, we refer to a default subnet mask by perhaps writing here an ID of 24, right? 24 because there's 24 bits in a Class C subnet mask, meaning that if I turn these numbers into binary numbers, then the value would read something like this. Right? This binary number is this number in a binary form. And notice how I have A bits, and A bits equals 24. And then there's A bits here, but these are zeros, so we don't count those. All right, so this number here tells you how many bits are being used for the subnet mask. So that if we didn't have a default subnet mask, if we had a 27 here, then that would tell me that somebody has borrowed 3 bits from here. So that my total number of bits here is 24 plus 3 is 27, and that's what that ID is telling me there. So you need to understand that. You need to understand that. You need to know that. At least you need to know what the default subnet mask is for Class A, Class B, and Class C, and how to write subnet mask in a binary form. All right, based on what that number is. And if there is no number there, then I would assume that this number here is your default subnet mask. Right? Although sometimes people write it here, may write here the ID for the IP address, so that you know that it is in fact the default subnet mask. All right. All right, so let's present a problem here. Let's say that you need to have we need to have 6 subnets, and you need 30 hosts or 30 computers per subnet, and you have been given an IP address of 210.100. .56.0. All right. So steps for subnetting. How do I turn this one IP address into 6 networks with 30 hosts each. And what you would do, first of all, I would need to determine what the subnet mask is. And the default subnet mask, because I haven't been given a subnet mask, I'm going to assume that I'm using the default subnet mask. This begins with a 210, so what is the subnet mask for 210 IP address? That's a class C IP address. And what is the subnet mask for that? 255.255.255.0. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to write that I'm going to write the subnet mask here, 255.255. This is the subnet mask here. That 255.0. And then I'm going to write it in a binary form. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 bits for 1 byte representing that octet, 255. That 255. That 255. All right. Once I've done that, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line. This is a formula here. This is a formula that you're going to use with strict discipline in order to be able to figure out how many subnets you can break this IP address into, all right? So I'm gonna draw a line here because that's where the number of bits that are being used to figure out the subnet ends. And these number zeros are the number of bits that I can borrow from to create more subnets. And then I'm going to here, just let me draw another line here. And then if you remember from the previous lesson, this is the value, the positions of the binary values, right? That is 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and 128. Right? That is the binary value of each position. We can do that. Now here, we're gonna write number of hosts. And here we're gonna write number of networks. You're gonna do this formula. This is how you're gonna start the formula for every subnet that you're going to create, whether it's a class A, or a class B, or a class C IP address, all right? And then we're gonna write some numbers here. These numbers are formulas. They're not value positions for these numbers, but rather a formula that we're going to use to figure out how many hosts we can have. So in here, I'm going to draw a line from here up here, and I'm going to write the number 2. Notice how I'm going to start from number 2 here, assuming that there's a position number 1 here, which is unseen. And then 4, and then 8, and then 16, and then 32, and then 64, 128, 256. All right. And then I'm gonna write the same values up here, but I'm gonna start counting the number of networks in that direction. So the number of hosts you begin counting in this direction, and the number of networks you begin counting in that direction. 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256. All right. And now we can look at the requirements. We need 6 subnets with 30 hosts. So that, let's see, 2, 4, 8, between 4 and 8, that's where 6 is. So I'm going to draw a line right here. And it's not. All right. Based on my requirements, I need 6 subnets. So I need to be here. Here's where my number of networks are going to be, or subnetworks are going to be. And my number of hosts, we're counting from that direction. So that my number of hosts will end here. By the way, we call this line the defining line. This line defines the number of hosts and the number of networks that I'm going to have. So I stop counting networks at the left side of the defining line, and I stop counting hosts at the right side of the defining line. So that gives me some total numbers of 8 networks and 30 hosts, and 32 hosts, actually, 32. All right. Now, to every, to the number of hosts, 32, we're going to deduct 2 hosts, because we always deduct 2 hosts. I'm going to explain as to why here in a minute. And my total number of hosts is 30 hosts. My total here is 8 networks and 30 hosts. For those of you who used to network the old-fashioned way, you used to deduct 2 networks from here. We don't do that anymore. So we have 8 networks and 30 hosts. We only deduct the hosts. And now we can start breaking down this. Now we can start breaking down the networks, so that we have, let's see, 8 networks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know if that's going to fit there. So I start counting. We're going to have 3 different things here. That's not working. We're going to have a network address. We're going to have the usable IP addresses, and we're going to have our broadcast here. And we start counting. My first network is going to be 210.100.56.0. That's where we're going to start. Doesn't matter what that number is here. Even if that was a 7, we still start with a 0 here in this particular case. All right? And so that my first usable address in this network is going to be 210.100.56.1. And my last usable address here, I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit that in here. 210.100.56. That, how many hosts do we have? 30 usable hosts. So from 1 to 30. And my broadcast address is going to be 210.100.56.31. My network address for my first network that I have subnetted is 210.100.56.0. My first usable address is 210.100.56.1. My last usable IP address in this network is going to be 210.100.56.30. And my broadcast address for this network is going to be 210.100.56.31. On my second network is going to be 210.100.56.32. And my first usable address is going to be 210.100.56.33. And my last usable address is going to be 210.100.56.60. And my broadcast is going to be, that's going to be 62, if I'm not mistaken, right? 210.100.56.63, and my following network is going to be 210.100.56.64, right? And I can continue to do these numbers. Notice how these numbers will go in multiples of 32, 0, 32, 64, so that I can write this number down here, 210.100.56, that 64 plus 90 plus 64 plus 32, 96. 96 plus 32, 128, right? So 210.100.56.128, and plus 32, is 160. 210.100.56.160. 210 would be my following network, that 100.56.192. and 210.100. That doesn't add up. Yeah, that's okay. That's it. Continue recording. Let's see. 0, 32, 64 plus 96. 64 plus 32 is 96. 96 plus 32 is 128. 128 plus 32 is 160. Plus 32 is 192. And then, yeah, that adds up. So 192 plus 32 is 224. That adds up perfectly. All right. So 210.100.56.65 will be my first usable address in this network. 210.100.56.94 will be my last usable address here, and my broadcast will be 210.100.56.95. And then my following network number 4, is 210.100.56.96. So that my first usable address in my fourth network is 210.100.56.97. My last usable address is 210.100.56.126. My broadcast is going to be 210.100.56.127. All right. Network number 5, my network address is going to be 210.100.56.128. And my first usable address is going to be 210.100.56.129. And my last usable address is going to be 210.100.56.158. 210.100.56.159 will be my broadcast. And for my network number 6, 210.100.56.160 is going to be my network address. My first usable address is going to be 210.100.56.161. And my last usable address is going to be 210.100.56.190. 210.100.56.192. 191, I'm sorry, is going to be my broadcast address. And this, my network number 7 is going to be 210.100.56.192. 210.100.56.193 is going to be my first usable address. 210.100.56.222 is going to be my last usable address. 210.100.56.223 is going to be my broadcast. And my last but not least network is going to be 210.100.56.224. So 210.100.56.225 will be my first usable address, and my last usable address is going to be 210.100.56.254 and 210.100.56.255 is going to be my broadcast address for my last network. So notice how we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 networks. All right, 8 networks with 32 hosts, because between here and here there's 32 IP addresses if we count the 0. The 0 counts as the first IP address, and that is the last IP address of our number of hosts. So that we have 32 minus 2 minus this one and minus that one. Our total is 30. There's 30 IP addresses between here and here. All right, 32 minus 2, because we take away the network address and we take away the broadcast address. These are not usable IP addresses. So the number of usable IP addresses is 30. 30 usable IP addresses, 8 networks. That's how you break it. That's how you subnet. Good? All right, so this is how we figure out subnetting. But now that we've done all of this numbering, we need to figure out what our new subnet mask is. And here's what we do. We take these numbers that are within this range. Notice how we borrowed 3 bits. We had borrowed 3 bits so that we can subnet this IP address. So that these zeros right here become 1, 1, 1, 1, right? And all of these stay at 0, the ones at the right of the defining line. Now, if we add these numbers, 128 plus 64 plus 32 gives us what? Well, 128 plus 64 is 192 plus 32 is 224, right? 224. So that our new subnet mask for all of these IP addresses is going to be 255, that 255, that 255, that 224. All right. So to all of these IP addresses, we're going, if we're going to assign IP addresses within these ranges of IP addresses that have been subnetted, each and every one of them are going to use this new IP address that we have created here by adding the number of zeros that became 1 to the left of the defining line. So if our defining line was here, then it would have to be 240. Right? If our defining line was here, then it was 248. But because our defining line is here, then we only add these numbers, 128 plus 64 plus 32, which gives us 224. In other words, we have changed the subnet mask so that it looks 8 ones here, 8 ones here, 8 ones here, 3 ones here, and 5 zeros here. And that gives us 225, that 225, that 255, that 255, that 255, that 224. So to all of these IP addresses, we're going to utilize this subnet mask, and therefore the networking devices will have an understanding that that IP address is subnetted with a classless subnet mask.